Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about semantics, what it is, and what people generally mean when they say, oh, that's just semantics. That's a semantic argument. And we'll end up talking about the fact that I like to cook. And we'll talk about the dish I like to prepare the most. So, we'll end up talking about shepherd's pie. And we will end up talking about what shepherd's pie can teach us about liberals and leftists. Okay, so what is semantics? It's the search for meaning in words, language, linguistics. In and of itself, semantics isn't a bad thing. It's what creates definitions that we use all the time. But that's not what people mean when they say that's semantics. What they generally mean is that you're discussing something that's irrelevant. You're discussing a variation in a definition that doesn't really matter. A good example would be a train conductor saying the final stop is the destination, and that's Berlin, because that's the train's destination. And somebody on the train saying, no, the destination is Munich. Look, it's here on my ticket. Because they're getting off 2 stops before. Not an argument worth having, right? And there's no material change in what the word destination means. It's the end of the trip. Just one person's thinking about themselves, one person's thinking about the train. Difference of perspective. That's not an argument worth having. Okay, it gets you off from whatever the main point is. Okay, so I like to cook. I make shepherd's pie that is, not to toot my own horn, delicious. Anytime I go to a potluck or some family gathering where everybody's expected to bring a dish, that's what people ask for. The whole time I've been making it, there's only one person that won't eat it, right? So, how do I make this delicious entree? Well, I take whatever meat I'm going to use. And right now, there's somebody in the comments section typing out, if you're not using lamb, it's not shepherd's pie. And they're going to assume that I'm going to use ground beef, so it's cottage pie, right? Is that semantics? No, because it reflects a material change in the thing you're talking about. It's literally different things. There's a change in substance, right? Now, for me, I use shepherd's pie for all of it because I don't just use ground beef. Sometimes I'll use chicken, or I'll even throw in bacon and eggs and make like a breakfast version. So in my little circle, people will say shepherd's pie with and then specify the meat. There's still a clarification of the material change in it, right? Okay. I can't just limit myself to shepherd's pie and cottage pie because these other things, I don't know the name of them. What, Bo's breakfast pie? Nobody knows what to call it. So it's all shepherd's pie with the clarification of the material change. If somebody was to correct me and say this is really cottage pie, it's not semantics. It's not irrelevant. It's them trying to educate me. Okay? So, arguing over material changes, it sometimes it's important. Not so much here, but we're going to get there. The one person who wouldn't eat my shepherd's pie is my 5-year-old, and he wouldn't eat it from the time he could talk. From the time he could say no, he was saying no, right? Why? Put yourself in the mind of a little person. If cherry pie is made with cherries and apple pie is made with apples, and you have had a giant German shepherd hanging over your shoulder your entire life, what is shepherd's pie made with? He wasn't eating it. Makes sense. Me explaining, hey, that's not what's in this. That's not semantics. It's education. What does this have to do with liberals and leftists? Those on the right, Republicans in particular, will intentionally conflate the two. They will tell their base, their constituents, that liberal and leftist mean the same thing. And a lot of liberals see this as harmless. It's not. Not to the Democratic Party. It matters a lot. If a person is certain that their base, their constituents, don't know the difference between liberals and leftists, so they just call them leftists, what happens when that base, the member of that base, goes home and Googles that term? What do they get? A whole bunch of other isms that fall under leftism, right? One of them is going to jump out at them because they had decades of anti-Soviet propaganda, and they're going to be scared of it. How does the Republican Party motivate its base? Always fear. Allowing them to use the term leftist, radical left, when they're talking about liberals, when they're talking about Democrats, that's just handing them a way to scare their base, to drive voter turnout for their side. It boggles the mind to see Republicans constantly use the term leftist, and no Democrat challenges them on it, asks them to define it, because they can't. Most Republicans can't, to be honest. They've said this so long, they actually believe it. That gap between being a liberal who is in support of capitalism and being a leftist who is generally against capitalism, that's a pretty big gap there. But when you're just talking about raw political power, allowing the Republican Party to say these liberals are leftists, and therefore you have a whole bunch of their base saying, oh, they're communists, and being terrified and driving voter turnout, that's bad. This is something the Democratic Party should probably work to correct. The term leftist being thrown out there to reflect run-of-the-mill liberals is probably something the Democratic Party should work to correct. You know, normally, right now, most of the time, it's leftists who are like, no, we are not the same as those liberals, you know. It's probably more important for liberals to make that distinction. If you're talking about any kind of benefit politically for the Democratic Party. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.